What is up, everybody? Welcome into episode 62 of the Brahma Bullpen, coming to you from the cow pasture on behalf of United Football Media. How you doing today there, producer?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here. This is an episode I was looking forward to.
We got a loaded episode for you. We got some roster update for the Brahmas. We got some crazy news coming out of the league. We're probably a little bit behind on this because it came out midweek last week, but we'll go ahead and bring it up and talk a little bit about it today. Basically, they're changing the kickoffs, and we'll show a little clip from Moose Johnson confirming that for us. We're going to go over rosters. Also, it's ranking season, folks. It's ranking season. We're here. We did coaches, we did stadiums, we've done linebackers. Now we're going to do wide receivers. We're not going to leave the offense out of this, especially San Antonio Brahmas offense coming at you with the spread. But you ready to get going, producer?
Let's go.
All right, man. First things first, because this is a Brahma bullpen, we're going to talk Brahma news. You see on the bottom of the list, transfer player to the retired list, Jordan Ferguson, outside linebacker. We just want to say we're sad to see you go, but we're happy you were here and wish you nothing but the best, Mr. Jordan Ferguson. With that, we do have, an updated roster. This is our current roster. Please feel free to pause this roster, read through it, send us any questions below. Let us know if we missed anybody. But as you can see, we still have a very healthy training camp roster here. We're not going to go into too much detail on that. We've had multiple episodes with roster information. Go back and find those if you want to hear us talk about specific players. Let's just get into the news, right? We'll pop up the first graphic here. Our very own United Football Media post here kind of was one of the first ones posted the news about this UFL rule change going back to the XFL style rule. It was Moose was doing an interview down at the Super Bowl, actually, and our account admin for the UFM just happened to be watching that interview. Right place, right time. So he's one of the first ones to jump on this. And a direct quote from the Moose that the NFL is going to embrace the kickoff. It doesn't make sense for us in the UFL to have a different kickoff. He did make sure to point out he still does not like the kickoff. And I'm going to get your reaction to the kickoff change rule, producer. But let's go ahead and let's just play the actual clip from Super Bowl Media Row, Moose Johnson, folks.
But I also have to be smart for our players. And if the NFL is going to embrace this kickoff moving forward, then it doesn't make sense for us to have our guys doing something that's not something they're going to be doing at the NFL level. So it made sense for us to do that. And then after we made that decision, we hear the information coming out of the NFL that the lowest concussion rate that they've had, in a season since they started tracking it in 2016. And with the big change being the kickoff, you would think that played a huge role in that. So it makes sense from a health and safety standpoint. It makes sense in a transitional standpoint for our players. So, the one thing that you'll see this year is going to be, our kickoff going back to what it was in the UFL and very similar to what they're doing in the NFL, but we've left that up. That's kind of the structure. Now we got to do the finalize all the details with that. So we've asked Mike Pereira and Dean Blandino, put your spin on this so we keep the return rate where we were last year. That's the one thing we do want to make sure we do is, okay, if we're going to go this direction, the one thing that we do want to make sure we do is continue to have that return rate that we've had in the league using the traditional.
1067, the Fan, bringing that to us. So what do you think, producer?
Well, I have several different viewpoints on this. I agree that I really prefer the traditional kickoff that the NFL has used for years and years and years. When I watch football, that's what I want to see. However, I agree that it makes sense that they switch over. No sense in doing something separate from what the NFL is doing, particularly if you're trying to help these guys get into the NFL. You want to have that same style of play so it's an easier transition. So it makes sense. And then, of course, there's a safety aspect to it. That's very important for all football players. But one thing out of this I will say is that I think it's a good change overall, but it's good to see when the XFL started, the innovation that they wanted to put into what they were doing and how they wanted to innovate the game in different ways. Even though it's not my favorite style of kickoff, it's good to see something that the XFL pioneered and changed about football, introduced to football, make such a big impact, and to make it this far as the impact that it's had on the game.
So you would rather, based upon what you just said, you'd rather see a kick just into the end zone 98% of the time, as opposed to seeing an actual return 70 to 80% of the time, because you just said this is not your favorite style of kickoff.
Okay, so I do like that it's being returned more. I just prefer that it be returned more in the traditional style. No, I don't like it just being going through the end zone. But in that traditional style of kickoffs, when it was returned, I think that was more exciting.
So you're going to just mandate the returner has to return it no matter. I mean, what do you mean? You just contradicted yourself. You're not going to get more returns with the same old kickoff style. So you have to change it.
Well, there's argument to be made, of course, on either side. Even Moose stated that he liked the the traditional kickoff more, but like I say, I mean, there's definitely benefits to it. Getting more returns is part of it.
I
It's
say
just you got to get used to it.
more returns or just get it out of the game. Just put the ball in the 20 and let them go. Because if you're going to go to the NFL style, which is ridiculous, well, the old NFL style, which, maybe back in the day when they started the NFL and kickers weren't like professionals, like the kicker was just a guy that was close to you when the game started and they couldn't kick it out of the end zone. Maybe it worked then, but definitely the XFL kickoff rule is the best kickoff rule of all time. But we're gonna leave it at there. Me and producer are not gonna agree on that. He'll just have to go through life being wrong. So, anyways, we're gonna go on with a little bit more news. For those of you out there who are uh, UFL football fans in general, before we get into our wide receiver rankings, we will cover some pretty big news. The Memphis Showboats are hiring defensive coordinator Jaron Horton. For those of you who don't know, he was also the defensive coordinator up with the Pittsburgh Maulers. As you can see in this post here, he's now coming down uh, with Memphis. So Memphis is having a full coaching staff change. And if you want a whole bunch of inside information on coaching strategy and player style, you definitely need to go follow my boys, listen to my boys over there on Captain's Log. We're just going to touch this a little bit because it is significant news. I'm not going to read through all the stats, but you can see Horton's a defensive coordinator, Brian Baker, defensive line coach, nowhere near the caliber as coach Chris Acuff, our defensive line coach. And if you want to get to know him better, just jump back one episode of the Bullpen. We had a great interview with him. Appreciate him coming on board. Mark Hall, linebackers coach, special teams coach. We got Steve Myers, defensive quality control. Luke Fennard, running backs coach. Jim Turner, offensive line. TJ Vermeer, tight ends coaches. And Lee Morris, offensive quality control coach. Please feel free to pause this episode, read all those stats, or you can go on UFL's website and this is their press release with all this information if you want to get more detail. But glad we got coaching news coming out of Memphis. If you want to know what me and producer think about all 8 coaches in the league, we did a coach ranking episode a few episodes ago. Go check that out. But you ready to start talking some wide receivers there, producer?
Let's get to it. That's what I'm waiting
He's
for.
ready to go. I will tell you, producer told me before the show started, this is the most prepared he's been since jumping on the channel and joining me. So I'm really looking forward to this wealth of knowledge he's going to share with us.
Oh
So,
man, set me up.
like, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to go through and just talk about teams in random order, no particular order. And then at the end, we'll pop up our ranking graphic and see who we like best. We didn't do every wide receiver. We basically picked the top 2, or we would be here all day talking wide receivers. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, this is one of the hardest this is the hardest ranking we've done so far this season, because so many of these teams have such depth at wide receiver. And then there's some teams that have a big turnover wide receiver, so we don't know what they're going to do or not do. And then, it's just crazy. But let's get into it. We'll start off with St. Louis, and everybody knows 2 studs out of St. Louis, Hakeem Butler and Jakir Pearson. Now, we'll just start off right now. The Pearson stats might not look that great, but if y'all remember him from the Seattle Sea Dragons, in the XFL days, he was the best slot receiver in the league. He did fight some injuries last year in the first season of the UFL and first season with Battlehawk, so he's got some low grades, low stats there. But Hakeem Butler, everybody knows Butler. He's basically like 19 feet tall. And he just throw the ball up in the air, and he's got hands the size of basketballs. He catches everything you throw at him. But some stats right there. Overall grade of 66.4. He was thrown to 74 times last year. Not enough. Throw to this guy more. Caught 51 of those, 710 yards. Yards per reception, 13.9. Look at the yards after catch, 285. Pearson down the bottom. You can see his stats there. Lower, 229 yards, only 28 receptions out of 38 targets. Like I said, he was injured last year. But look at his yards after catch, 133 on just those 28 receptions. So you can see he's shifty, baby. He likes to move with a PFF grade of 66.5. One thing about the St. Louis guys, they got a bunch of new receivers coming in. The only other guy coming back was Blake Jackson, but obviously Hakeem and Jakir are the top two. So what are your thoughts on these two stud receivers, producer?
Well, I'll start off with Akeem Butler. That guy is, man. If you're building a roster, he's a wide receiver, one of the first ones you're going to take. That guy is so big, so physical, so strong, so fast. I mean, there's so many things to say about him. Got the nickname Akeem the Dream uh, because of how good he is.
Oh, wait. You
Just
sure you're not talking about basketball player?
what? No.
Hakeem the
He's
Dream
literally
played for the
referred to
Houston
as Akeem
Rockets.
the Dream. I've heard it. I've
He
heard it.
played for the Rockets, bro. Hakeem
No.
Olajuwon? Hakeem the
No,
Dream?
they referred they referred to Akeem Butler as that as well.
Who's
So
they?
I've heard it. Anyway, so this guy, he's caught some amazing passes last year, 80-yard touchdown versus DC. Just tall, athletic. He reminds me. He's like the Megatron of the UFL. So that's what I compare him to.
So he's a Detroit Lions receiver and a Houston Rockets starting center. I got you. Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, I like both those references. We'll get into our ranking. We'll see how much you really like the Dream when we get going further. But moving on to the next team, San Antonio Brahmas, baby. John Trey Kirkland and Justin Smith. I will say Marquez Stevenson, you know, Kirkland's the clear number one. Justin Smith and Stevenson, 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B. They're both right there. One thing about the San Antonio receivers is they're coming into this league with the most targets, combined targets, obviously spread offense, air it out, throw the ball. And also, they're the returning group with the most yards after catch, right? So yards after catch is huge. 269 up there for Jonte Kirkland, 137 for Justin Smith. Just to go through the grades, 66.6 for Jonte Kirkland, 96 targets, 66 receptions, 694 yards, averaging a first down every catch, 10.5 yards. Like we said, yards after catch, 269 with 3 touchdowns. We'll go into Justin Smith's stats down there. A grade of 60, 50 targets, 30 receptions, 343 yards, 11 yards per reception. Speedster, Justin Smith, 137 yards after catch and 2 touchdowns. What stood out to you about the San Antonio Brahmas returning wide
Uh, I'll
receivers?
talk. I'll talk about both these guys. And you covered a lot of the stats, so I'll talk more about some of the on-field results. One of the things that stands out to me, you got to remember Kirkland, some of the amazing plays that he's made last year against Michigan. There was a play where he had a defender right there on him. Guy turns around and midair jumps midair with Michigan with a defender right there on him, catches the ball with his left hand, and then falling backwards, makes that catch. Just an amazing play. So that kind of speaks to his talent, how good he is, and then these two guys working together, even though they're running routes often on opposite sides of the field there. Just they enjoy working together, running plays together. If you recall last year, that play they had, I think it was against Birmingham, where Kirtland actually threw a touchdown pass to Smith, and so that was instant highlight play. But
Mhm.
both of them just great talent, and so happy to have both of them on the Brahmas.
Yeah, definitely two studs. Definitely stoked that not only Kirkland and Smith, but Stevenson coming back. You know, the Brahmas are tied with Birmingham for the most new wide receivers. And let me tell you, some of the guys on this list are definitely going to see the field. Greg Ward, Jawan Green, for sure. Both of those guys will be on the field. Matthew Sexton, Racy McGath, Rashawn Henry, Jacob Harris, and Ty Frogel, or none of those guys are slouches either. I don't know how many are going to make the roster, but you would pretty much assume there's going to be at least 7 of these guys on the roster. Um, Maybe 8, who knows, right? But yeah, definitely a deep wide receiver room. And with Kellen Mond coming in at quarterback, it's going to be interesting to see what these guys do next year. But moving right on to Michigan. Oh, Michigan, man. I'll tell you what can we say about Michigan? Marquez Sims is all you need to know about Michigan. The guy is a deep threat, speedy. You can see his PFF grade of 67.6, 43 targets, 26 receptions, 458 yards. He did miss some time due to a little bit of injuries last year. Uh, Yards per reception, 17.6. That's crazy, right? Almost 20 yards every time he catches the ball and 237 yards after the catch, 3 TDs. That just shows you that he's running. Then we look down at Sahozi Mariner, PFF grade 83.5. 83.5, 45 targets, 31 receptions, 406 yards, 13.1 yards per catch, 100 yards after catch. Crazy to have that 83.5 PFF grade. What do you think about these Michigan wideouts?
Well, with Sims, and you brought out his quickness, how quick he is on his feet, how quick he is, and how good he is with his hands. I like his ability to really make adjustments. For example, one play, his quarterback ran out of the pocket under distress. He adjusted, got there in time for the quarterback to hit him. Next thing you know, touchdown. And so he was able to make that quick adjustment mentally and physically to make a great play happen. In regards to Mariner, uh, you talk about a great wide receiver, somebody that has super high potential. This is a guy that probably should be on an NFL roster somewhere or making it to the NFL at some point. And we talk about Butler, how great he is. I think that Mariners potentially quite a bit better. So we'll see what he can do through the year. But if I were to pick one wide receiver to just really break out, I would say he would have the highest chance.
Interesting. So you're gonna call that as your breakout wide receiver of the year, right now, right here?
That man is extremely talented.
All right, I like it. I like the danger you're living on right here. We're calling wide receivers top centers in NBA history and calling shots right now for stand. That's amazing. I love it. All right, moving on to Memphis. Daywood Davis. PFF grade of 61.7, 66 targets, 40 receptions, 436 yards, 10.9 yards per reception, 214 yards after catch. Uh Davis tied another receiver that we're going to talk about later, but with most TDs that we're going to talk about today. So 5 TDs is nothing to scoff at. Jonathan Adams Jr., PFF grade 65.7, 55 targets, 34 receptions, 451 yards, 13.3 yards per reception with 121 yards after catch. What do you think about these Memphis receivers, producer?
Well, with Davis, great talent. I mean, I've got nothing negative to say about any of these guys. All these guys that we're talking about are really, really good wide receivers. But it's just his speed, how fast he is. He's got quick feet, and he's a home run threat. Anytime he lines up, he's outside. Especially on that left side of the field, I believe he's better on. Um, you got a potential of he's going to take it all the way. As far as Jonathan Adams goes, his vision is something that stands out to me. Just wherever that ball goes, he's able to track it extremely well and then get his hands there. So he's able to move, catch that ball, even go vertical if he needs to. But great ball vision, great hands, and able to make some great catches.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing about these Memphis. So they both played 10 games, right? 66 targets for Davis, 55 targets for Adams. I mean, they just weren't throwing the ball very much compared to, like, say, what the Brahmas are doing, a couple other teams. It'll be interesting to see their quarterback situation up there in Memphis. I think whoever the quarterback is going to play a huge factor on these guys' success or failures for this season.
Yeah,
Uh,
hopefully it changes for them. Give these guys more opportunities, but of course, we want to beat them. But as since we're talking about them, I hope they do well. I want to see them get those opportunities.
yeah, obviously, we wish for every player to do well, except for when they're playing the Brahmas, right? That's pretty much how we do things.
100%.
All right, moving right along. The Houston Roughnecks, Justin Hall, man, one of the good ones. PFF grade 79.8, 70 targets. You can see the targets increase. 55 receptions, 600 yards, 10.9 yards per catch, 370 yards after catch, 3 TDs. You got Kiki Chisholm, 64.2 PFF grade, targets, 48 targets, 33 receptions, 353 yards, averaging 10.7 yards per catch. A little low on the yards after catch, but hey, one of the things that you just have to deal with. Now, these two guys have the lowest number of TDs combined uh, when compared to every other pair that we're talking about today, but they also have the lowest drop rate, meaning they don't drop the ball whenever they get it, get it thrown. It hits them in the hands. They catch it. As a matter of fact, if you just bear with me, right quick, uh, Kiki Chisholm had 0 drops. Let that sink in. What do you think about this duo?
As far as Hall goes, his talent is reflected in his high PFF score. If you look at his stats as far as targets, yards after catch, his catch percentage, all those things are amazing. And so he's very talented. As far as Chisholm goes, a lot of the things you'd say about any of these wide receiver apply to him as well. He's very talented, but what I appreciate about him, his competitive spirit, his fire, his desire and want to on the field. That's reflected. If you ever listen to that guy mic'd up, it's pretty interesting. But both these guys, they're kind of like Memphis. They need somebody to give them that opportunities. That was lacking for them. So we'll see if they get more opportunities this year. If they do, their stats are surely going to go up.
Yeah, the quarterback play in Houston is gonna be a big factor on this guy's season
Yeah.
as well. So, all right, let's move on into DC. DC, we got Ty Scott, we got Chris Rowland. Ty Scott, a PFF grade of 70 for the year of 2024, 39 targets, 25 receptions, 418 yards, 16 yards per catch, 155 yards after catch. We got Chris Rowland down there, PFF grade of 71.7, 35 targets, 20 receptions, 262 yards, 13 yards per reception, yards after catch, 84. I will tell you that the DC team is coming into this year with these are the only 2 players that were on the roster last year at wide receiver. They got 4 brand new ones. So these guys, depending on what happens in training camp, might get shook out, might not be wide receivers 1 or 2. Also, Jordan Ta'amu is coming back, so you would think they have a good quarterback to play with. But last year, because there was no running game, a lot of stats went down. I mean, 35 targets, 39 targets is really, really low targets. But then if you look at TDs, that's definitely 3 TDs, and 3 TDs is nothing to scoff at either. So, what do you think about these DC wideouts?
With Scott, I'll say with him, he's an aggressive player. He wants to take really good care of that ball, and he'll rip it. If there's any type of struggle for it, he'll rip it out and go with it. Strong hands, so that's something to compliment with him. In regards to Roland, um, his speed really stands out to me. They've used him in returns. He's got some really, really breakaway speed against Arlington. I think he went 80 yards for a touchdown on a punt return. And so if he gets loose, watch out. So that's kind of what stands out in regards to these guys the most to me.
Yeah, Ty Scott had a 77.8 contested catch rating from PFF, meaning he's going up there and fighting for the ball. He's making that catch 77% of the time. He did have 4 drops though. And who knows? I don't know exactly where those drops happen or where, but anytime a drop happens a game, it's significant, right? But we'll see what happens up there in DC. We just got a couple of teams to go. And for all you pony fans out there, we're going to get to the Birmingham Stallions. Marlon Williams, PFF grade 72, 45 targets, 33 receptions, 399 yards. It's kind of low on the yardage. 12 yards per catch, 192 yards after catch, 4 TDs all by himself. So not bad. You got Deion Kane down here, PFF grade 61.6, 66 targets, 37 receptions, 461 yards, 12 yards per reception, 86 yards after catch. Birmingham is just like San Antonio. They got 3 guys coming back. The other guy coming back is Amari Rogers. And then they got a whole bunch of guys on the depth chart listed that did not play for them last year. You got Austin Watkins, Shai Smith, Joseph Nagata, Tyrone Johnson, Cade Johnson, Davion Davis, and Jalen Camp. Who knows where that's going to shave out? But I can tell you right now, they're not taking all those wide receivers into the into the season with them. But because they definitely do use the tight end a lot down there in Birmingham. So what do you think about these old pony wide receivers?
All right, are you ready for this?
Yeah,
I got
let's do
another
it.
nickname for you.
Okay.
All right, so in regards to Williams,
If you call him the big fundamental, I'm in this episode right now.
no, no, not the big fundamental, but the bulldozer.
The bulldozer.
The bulldozer. All right, so this guy, this guy, if you look at him, uh, he high PFF grade. He by far he had the best yards after catch on his team, and so he is somebody that not only he's fast, quick, but he's hard to bring down. So he's used to hitting guys and keeping on chugging and making big plays. So that's why he's the bulldozer. As far as Kane goes, another guy that is great at returning kicks, fast. He has the potential of taking games over at the wide receiver position. Great as far as receptions, yards, his ability to get first downs. Great stats in those areas.
Where did this bulldozer nickname come from? Like you Googled that and it was like you saw it on the internet or you made that up right
Well,
now or
no, I didn't make it up right now. I just, like I said, looking into these guys is something I heard somebody say. So that's all. I didn't come up with a name. I'm just using it.
all right. All right. But you don't know who it was. You
I
don't know who
I,
no? Okay.
I
All
can't
right.
accredit anybody right now.
All right. Well, let's get into our last wide receiver room before we show our rankings. With a name like Bulldozer, you would think that would be the number 1 wide receiver duo, but we'll see when we get to that point. But let's jump into the Arlington Renegades. Tyler Vaughn's PFF grade of 71.4, targets 70, receptions 45, 503 yards, 11.2 yards per catch, 84 yards after catch. Looking down at Javante Payton, PFF grade of 63.9, 40 targets, 23 receptions, 379 yards, 16.5 yards per reception, 36 yards after catch. He's on this list as the number 2 wide receiver in my mind over Dante Burnett because of the total touchdowns. He's got 5 total touchdowns where Burnett only had 2, which kind of why I put him up as the number 2 wideout on the team. Definitely a touchdown machine there. And then Tyler Vaughn, what can you say? He's just a great wide receiver, and these guys going to be playing with Luis Perez. Arlington has the most returning wide receivers. Looks like they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide receivers coming back, 3 new guys on the roster. The new guys are Todd Sims, David Durden, and Davion Clayton. The returning guys, Tyler Vaughns, Dante Burnett, Javante Payton, Isaiah Winstead, Juwan Mango, and Lujuan Winningham, which all of those guys received significant playing time throughout the year. So other than Lujuan Winningham, he didn't get on the field too much. But anyways, what do you think about these Arlington wideouts?
Well, Tyler Vaughn's, he's uh, as many of these great wide receivers do, or all of them. He's got great hands. It's been seen throughout his college career, USC. He's got some NFL experience. He's caught some touchdown passes in the NFL, and so that it was on display there. And then, of course, in the UFL, he's doing it there as well. So he's a really good wide receiver. Then Peyton, of course, he's got that potential, that speed. He's got the potential to burn you deep. He's done it to teams a number of times, and so once again, both these guys are great wide receivers for Arlington to have.
Yeah. And, they're coming back with Luis Perez. If you guys did know, Luis Perez just did a one-on-one interview with the VP of content here at the United Football Media Group with Ace. So go check that out. It was a great interview. It was awesome to hear his perspective on spring football. He's got a book coming out and all the details are over there. I will probably be buying like my third book ever when that comes out, not a huge book guy. I'd prefer to watch the movie or the football game. But yeah, but you ready to show our rankings, producer? You ready to pop it up for the whole world to see? Once this graphic comes up, there's no takebacks.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go, folks.
This
And
was hard though. This was very hard because
I
they're
would,
all,
I,
man, so close.
I would agree with you. This was the hardest ranking that I did. And you know what? Even the last place team could have been as high as 3 or 4 for me. So it's pretty crazy. But we're gonna go ahead and
Yeah.
just throw them up here. And there are the rankings. And it's wild. We don't um, discuss these rankings. I do mine, log them in. Producer does his, so completely separate. We don't talk about them before the episode. It's just I know where they're at because I make the graphic or whatever. But you know, both of us have a Michigan number one. Why did you put Michigan number one?
Well, I think they have the single what will end up being the best wide receiver at the end of the year on their team, and then they've got a really good number two. So great duel there.
Yeah. I basically look at the overall PFF rankings of the combined duo, and this duo was number one with a combined PFF ranking of 151.7. So I definitely use where they take all those different metrics in there. And then I looked at the yards and I looked at the yards per catch, per reception, right? One of the higher combinations of yard per reception. All right. I got St. Louis at number 2. You got Houston. I'll go first. I got St. Louis number 2 purely because I know what Pearson is going to do if he stays healthy. This guy posts videos of workout and training on a regular. And then with Hakeem Butler, like I said, the big old tall guy, possession receiver with Pearson playing the slot. I'm going to tell you, man, those guys are going to get open no matter who they're playing against. And I just think Pearson's going to look like the XFL Pearson, and they're going to be a tough team to stop.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'll talk about that as far as St. Louis goes. But I put Houston at number two, and you could almost flip these as far as where they're ranking or where they're ranked. But for the most part, it's because of Justin Hall. I think he's that good. And so I don't know if that's going to show through with the opportunities that he'll get and the talent that will be around him. But I think that he's good enough, and I think the duel is good enough to be the number two duel.
Pretty good. Not bad. Not bad. I mean, I got them down a little further down the list, but we'll get into that. I got Arlington 3. You got Brahmas 3. You can tell that I really tried not to be a homer because I do love the Brahmas wide receivers. And we'll talk about them in a minute. But I put Arlington number 3 because 2 things. The most touchdowns coming back, 12 touchdowns returning. So you got experience coming back at wide receiver. Arlington only played 10 games. So they're getting a touchdown every game, over a touchdown a game receiving. Luis Perez is coming back. So that passing game is going to be on fire. And I also think they don't like the way they lost last year and didn't make the playoffs. So I really do think they're going to be a motivated team. And I think they definitely have the skills to pay the bills, so to speak. Why do you got Brahmas number 3?
Well, I can't believe that I'm actually ranking the Brahmas higher than you are. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I think this is a first, right?
Yeah.
But I'm trying to be fair about it too. I'm trying to give a unbiased opinion on them. But I think that Kirtland and Smith are just really both extremely talented wide receivers. I kind of talked about some of my favorite plays from last year that they're both involved in. But I think they're going to be a great duel again, and I look forward to them to surpass what they did last year for 2 reasons: better quarterback play and more experience. More camaraderie between them. And so that's why I elevate them.
Nice. Well, we'll just go on to number 4. I got the Brahmas number 4, and I'll echo some of the things you said. Realistically, even if they're not the top wide receivers in the league, they're going to be the top wide receivers in the league based upon the offense that we run. So, I mean, even if they were ranked lower for me, they would still jump up a couple spots just because of the targets, man. 96 targets for Jonte Kirkland. And then Stevenson and Justice Smith having 57 and 50 targets each is just the ball is going to be moving. The ball is going to be in the air. And I think we talk about upside with a more accurate quarterback coming in because Kellen Mond is more accurate than Dormady or Garbers. Dormady threw a lot of interceptions. Garbers, he had a quick release, but his heart wasn't in it. Kellen Mond is coming home. His heart's going to be in it. And he is the all-time leading passer at one of the powerhouses in football. I know they don't win a lot of championships at A&M, but I can tell you there's pressure at every game that he played up there. They played stiff competition, and I think this wide receiver room is going to just reap the benefits of a very accurate and efficient passer. Why you got DC at 4?
Well, for them, I think their will, the wide receivers, they're very talented. Their PFF scores are really high. Both of them have that speed. They can break loose. They're dangerous. Um, I just I just think that's where they belong. We'll see if Tamu can get them the ball and how they'll do this year. But I think that they're perhaps a little underrated. Uh, in my opinion, I just think that they're in the top 4 in the league.
Okay. Well, you're allowed to have a wrong opinion, and when I get to my number 8 team, I'll tell you why you're wrong. But we'll go on down. We'll
Okay.
both we'll both have the ponies 5. So we agreed on first, and we agreed on fifth. I got Birmingham fifth. With Alex Magoo coming back, I definitely think these guys are going to be on pace to have another wonderful season. I also do feel they play in the weaker of the 2 conferences. Overall, when you start looking at the defenses they have to play against over there in the USFL side. I just think that they got a ton of experience between Kane and Williams, and I think it's going to pay off for him. And Magoo can come back to the shade of his former self. Going to be a tough wide receiver room to deal with. And realistically, this team could have been as high as 3rd for me or as low as 6. I think 3 through 6 are all pretty interchangeable in my mind. But why did you get them? Why do you have them at number 5?
Well, they're a great duel at wide receiver. Both these wide receivers are so dangerous on the field. However, there's so much about Birmingham that makes them overall a dangerous team. Right? There's so much to deal with and talent on that team as we've seen in the past 3 years. But just I just think that there's 4 wide receiver rooms that are better. It's not that they're bad. I think they're good. I just think there's 4 that are better.
No way DC's better, but we'll get into that. We're going to drop down to number 6. I got Memphis Showboats. When I get down to 6, 7, and 8, there's more factors outside than the skills of the wide receiver. For Memphis, it's quarterback play. Who's going to be the quarterback? How good are they going to be? You know, we just don't know. We talked about quarterbacks. Uh, we'll see what happens. We'll see how that shakes out. But Memphis wideouts, I know David Davis is good. Jonathan Adams are good. I just don't feel there's enough consistency with the coaching staff turnover and with the new quarterback. Memphis O line really struggled last year. We'll have to see what improvements they make there. I just think that they don't have much else going for them other than their own skills and ability, and you need some help to have one of those breakout seasons. So that's why I got them number 6.
Yeah. And as far as myself, I put St. Louis at number 6. In all honesty, looking back at it, if I were to redo them right now, I'd probably put them at 4 and DC at 6. So I'll keep it the way it is, but I could swap those two. But I think that you have to acknowledge the talent they have, and putting them at 6 is probably underrating them. Akeem Butler, amazing, and also Parsons. That guy, I didn't mention him earlier, talk about him, but he's so hard to tackle. The guy's short, low to the ground, powerful, and so he's just really, really strong. He's got that low center of gravity that makes him hard to get down. And so
Shifty.
I'm doing them a disservice at 6, but I can't put them any lower than that. For me, they got to be at least that.
Folks, if you're hearing what I'm hearing, I made such a valid argument that producer's second guessing himself. So I'll take that straight to the bank. Moving on to number 7, I got Houston Roughnecks at 7, and it's the same reason why I have the Memphis at 6. I think Memphis, David Davis is a little bit better than Hall and Chisholm, so they got that little edge. Quarterback play, offensive line play. I don't know if I have faith in Coach C.J. Johnson to turn that team around down there in Houston. So I think that there's a lot of factors other than the wide receiver skill here, and I just could not put them higher than the other teams ahead of them. You got Arlington at number 7. Tell me why the GOAT Luis Perez wide receiver core with the most experience returning is all the way down at 7.
Well, I think that when we did these rankings, we looked at him a little differently. Okay, so you mentioned Luis Perez, and he is the goat. He's great. Um, he elevates those wide receivers. But when you're doing the ranking, you're looking at the wide receiver, or you're looking at the quarterback, you're looking at the offense, what it's going to produce. Um, I'm looking at the wide receivers. So I take the quarterback out of it. I'm looking at the wide receivers themselves. You're looking at them in combination with the quarterback and what they may produce. So I think that's where the discrepancy is as far as Arlington and Houston and where they're at. Why we have them kind of switch there is because I think that they're elevated. I don't think they're as talented as Houston is. So I put Houston higher. I think Luis Perez elevates those guys. They are not as good of a wide receiver room, just as pure talent as Houston.
Okay, and I also want everybody to know the dog in the background, that's at producer's house. Okay, so you guys want to leave comments in here complaining about that? I did see an interview the other day where someone's cat like kept joining the interview. So, it
Yeah.
happens, I guess. But
Can't do anything about it. I could yell, but that would be an interruption of the show.
send someone a text and be like, go over there and kick the dog. All right, we're gonna go into number
Okay.
8. Number 8. Here we go. I have DC ranked 8. DC is only coming into this season currently right now with 6 wideouts on the roster. I think DC is going to be running the heck out of this football. I do not think they're going to be throwing the ball. You got DC ranked number 4th, 25 receptions for Scott, 20 receptions for Rollin. They were targeted less than 40 times each, 39 and 35 respectively. I don't see how you could be a 4th ranked wide receiver group in this league and only have 20 or 25 catches in 10 games. 2 catches a game? Come on, man. That's ridiculous. For sure they go last place. But that's my piece. You heard your piece on DC, which is fine. It's okay. Talk to me about the showboats.
Okay, well, and I'll apply the same thing I said about Houston or Arlington. As I'll apply that with DC too, and that's why I got a higher ranking with the showboats. And as we said it earlier, I'm going to say it again. I think all these wide receivers are extremely talented. It's not that the showboats do not have talented wide receivers. I think they are, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with them. There's so many unknowns there, and yeah, I'm not going to say that I'm reverting to your side of things where I'm solely looking at the results on the field, but we just don't know. I will say that I think they're a great wide receiver room. I just think they're at eighth, and I hope they do good, but I think that's where they belong.
Well, there you have it, folks. Leave a comment, complain about the dog, complain about producers' rankings, complain about my rankings, whatever you got to do. But we appreciate you joining us here on behalf of United Football Media out here in the cow pasture. You know, we are out cow pasture, so animal sounds shall be included from time to time. You know,
Might hear
realistically, with
some horses over here too
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, realistically thinking about it, the number of episodes we've done and the few distractions we've become, yeah, that's pretty good, right? So
Yeah, usually I got them inside.
yeah, but we're gonna go ahead and end it right there. We're gonna get out of here from the cow pasture. We're gonna end it like we always end it with a nice horns forward. Let's go Brahmas, baby.